What is up, guys and gals, ladies and lads, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Fox, and today I want to talk a little bit about Sparking Zero's balance. And before I say anything else, I just want to preface all of this with I think Sparking Zero is a phenomenal game, and even if they do no changes to the game whatsoever, apart from just delivering on the DLC that they've already promised, then this will still be a really faithful successor to BT3 and a really successful one in my books, and just one of my favorite games in a long time. So this is all just a wish list and like some hopeful stuff, and obviously like when you really like something, you want to see it be as good as you possibly can. So, and there's been talk about like the player numbers dwindling, but it's still a, well, I wouldn't call it a fighting game. It's very Mickey Mouse if it's a fighting game. But I think it just makes sense, especially like on PC, like player numbers dwindling with like a lot of people were there for the nostalgia, they got their fill, like people were there to do the story, which in general, like a lot of new game releases, like it's very exciting at first, and then player numbers keep dwindling. It's still like, even on PC, it's still like hovering around 10k, which is really good, and I've still found matches relatively well. I think PS5 is probably where the game is most active, but at least for now, like still PC is something where I'm not super struggling to find matches. Crossplay is something that I would maybe like to see in the future. It's not something that I had on my list of these changes today, so it could be like a hidden 8 change that I would like to see somewhere in the future. Definitely, like I feel like crossplay would do wonders for the game, but seven changes, 7 Dragon Balls, you know, it just makes sense, and I didn't think of that when I made the list of things that I wanted to talk about today. But all that being said, though, let's get to the changes. These are listed in like sort of my priority, like from I'd like to see this change the most, from the like less important stuff to me. And yeah, I just wanted to preface that I already love the game, and if they change stuff like this, like that'd be sick, but I'm still gonna enjoy the game even if they don't. But the first one is, and you've heard this from every single person who has ever touched this game for more than 5 minutes probably, Vanish Wars. It just, I think we have some stuff that we'll talk about like shortly after Vanish Wars as well, and Vanish Wars are the root of all evil when it comes to even a lot of the stuff concerning those things. So yeah, also I don't know, currently I'm just in my room like talking to myself like this, so I haven't recorded background footage for this yet, but I'll have something for you running in the background. Couldn't address that, but whatever you see in the background and whatever when you hear me talking, like that's not me doing those two things at once, because I realized, especially when I have something that I actually want to talk about and I'm doing something else, I'm really bad at multitasking when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, I'll have something going there. You probably know sooner and better than I do, since I already addressed that like we're 3 minutes in. But yeah, Vanish Wars, like you've heard it from everybody, like, and the changes that I also have, like they're also not radical. It's either make it speed up, like every time Vanish happens, like it would make it more hype. Obviously, like, people still can get accustomed to the timing, but they also could get accustomed to the timing in BT3, so it's kind of whatever. It just would make them go by faster, or just literally make it like BT3, where it was like, I think both sides have 3, and then it goes to the other timing clash. But also in BT3, Vanish's like just in general, like in Vanish Wars, you have to be quicker. It wasn't like ding, 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 because currently in Sparking Zero it's very, very slow. So it's very easy to time. But like, just I would like to see something done where they wouldn't be as long, because like currently a quarter of your match can be taken up by just you being stuck in a Vanish off, and day one it was hype. It is no longer hype. It just holds the match, makes it more boring, because it's just like, okay, whoever has the most key just wins, and then like both of you like getting rid of your key in the process also means that you get to see less supers, which obviously are like some of the coolest stuff in the game, at least to me. So it also would address that stuff. So I think like Vanish Wars are the #1 thing that if there was one change I'd like to see in the game, it would be addressing those in some way. And related to it, #2 is skill gauge, and specifically the rate at which you currently, in the current version of the game, like get skill gauge. Because I think like #1, Vanish Wars are, that's why I referred to that earlier, like Vanish Wars are what builds you most of the time a lot of skill gauge, and I think also reflecting key blasts charge you skill gauge, and then finally like some characters just start with more. Like I think genuinely, apart from maybe Hercule or Mr. Satan, I don't think anyone should start with extra skill gauge. Like Master Roshi, a character with access to After Image Strike for 3, starting with 2 skill gauge, it's like, why did we do this? I don't like it. I really don't. I don't think any character, apart from maybe Mr. Satan, should start with any skill gauge. I don't think it just makes sense. They're already like okay balanced with their like DP and stats, like based on that. You don't need to give 2 skill gauge to characters to start them off, especially a character with After Image. And reflecting Key Blast, I don't mind as much, but I just think it would be easier in general if it's just like everyone just has the skill gauge generation as they do, and then if you're locked off, then you're not building any skill gauge, and that's it. Like Vanishes definitely should not build skill gauge, especially in how Vanish Wars are in their current state. I just don't think it's fun, because it's like transformations obviously being a very integral part of Dragon Ball. I think it's cool that you have access to those, but I think currently like there is no real downside to starting with like base Goku Black or base Z Broly and just transform it to the final form like 20 seconds in the match, because you're gonna have 1 or 2 vanish offs and then you already have the gauge built for it. So it just, there's kind of no point, and you rarely see the lower forms as a result unless the person specifically wants to place them. So I feel like that's also something. And also like I think in a Dragon Ball game it's cool that you feel powerful. I think you should feel powerful, and that's why like there are also like obviously a lot of powerful skills. Like we all talked about After Image, and spoiler alert, we'll talk about it more, but even regular After Image and Wild Sense, Insta Sparks, like stuff like that, like it's all very powerful. And I think like adding key sickness to those or not, like I'm kind of indifferent to it. I don't care. Like if they add key sickness, cool. If they don't, cool. Because key sickness obviously doesn't make you feel powerful. It puts a trade-off on those very powerful skills, but I think it's fine that the skills feel powerful. But I think currently you just have too much access to those, and also your transformations. And I think like the skill gauge is gradually building up instead of like having these very accessible bursts of skill gauge recovery. I don't really like it. So yeah. And speaking of powerful skills, I already alluded to it. After Image Strike. Like After Image is good, Wild Sense is good, you have access to those and other different, I think Anulaza at least, and Irudegarn have their own like respective ones for 2. Usually like there are 2, okay, now key, clone, or hit. Like you have these 2 bars where you get a single instance of okay, automatic vanish when you try to get hit. For 1 more bar of skill gauge, you get After Image Strike. It is the most degenerate skill in the game, I think. I think Insta Sparks are good, but I think they still promote more fun gameplay. In maybe not in one case, but we'll talk about that a little later. But After Image Strike, I don't think it's fun for either side. By using 3 skill gauge, I now make myself untouchable, and my opponent needs to just be spamming Key Blast or literally not try to hit me at all. If I'm in Sparking, then there is 0 counterplay. They literally can't do anything, which I don't think it's fun. I don't feel good about activating After Image Strike myself. I don't think it's interesting, because it's like, okay, now my opponent can't do anything for 15 seconds. And for facing it, like you're just like, okay, well now I'm only spamming key blasts or literally not doing anything. And with how accessible it is currently, like I think it's not fun. I don't think it's just fun. And I think there's a couple things that you could do. Like number one, I think this should be bumped up like they did with your sensor beams to 6, which makes sense. I think after image strike should be bumped up to 4. I think one extra skill gauge for having a like access to multiple after images is like crazy, and I think it should be double the cost instead of just being one more. Which obviously, if we do the if we assume that we've already done the earlier balance changes as well, like then obviously it's much more manageable that way. But also, I think some sort of a way to manage the duration of an after image strike would also be nice. Like having access to having access to an indicator, I think would be like work wonders. But we have indicators for like most of the buffs. I obviously know that for after image and wild sense, it's kind of a point like, okay, if you're not paying attention to the skill gauge, like they're meant to catch you off guard, but after image strike, like it lasting longer, I think it would make more sense to have an indicator so you know when it's running out, because obviously it's being tied to a timer instead of a single use means that even after it procs, it's like, all right, well, have you been like, bro, we're Dragon Ball fans, we're not gonna be counting to 15 in our heads when we're throwing hands when we see our opponent activated, like, and I don't think we should have to do that. Also, I think you could also just limit the amount of vanishes that could happen, like limited to maybe 3 per after image strike. You could even make after image strike 10 seconds instead of 15. It would still be an insanely good skill, I think. And final suggestion that I have for it would be something that would maybe be a little harder to implement, but maybe think of after image strike like when it gets activated, like it starts a 15-second timer, like 3 seconds pass, and then one of your automatic vanishes gets triggered. And it's at 12 seconds now. Well, the automatic vanish triggers, and then it immediately puts you to like 8 or 7 seconds remaining on the after image strike. Like every time it triggers a vanish, it speeds up the not speeds up the duration, shortens the duration by a burst. Like it's 15 seconds if nothing happens, it's just there as an insurance. But let's say like you vanish, you have 12 seconds remaining on it, and one of your vanish gets triggered. You go now down to 7 seconds, for example, then it keeps ticking down. Your opponent triggers one of them, the remaining ones when you have 3 seconds left, and then it's immediately done. Like I said, like something like that probably much harder to implement, and if you don't have an indicator, a nightmare to track, which is what a lot of, I think, the pain points also is for after image strike. But in general, I just think like bump it up to 4 and then do something else. Give it an indicator, make it 10 seconds instead of 15. Like if it's a forward cost for 10 seconds, it's still a really good skill, but it's fine. Like I think those two changes are already fine, but it just, I think after image strike definitely needs something done to it, because in its current state it is not fun to use and not fun to fight against. So yeah, just make it less obnoxious. Number 4, perception. So I've heard some discourse around super counter, and obviously not spending any resource makes it really good. But at least like currently in my skill level, like it's still like if you can do it consistent, like that's very impressive. And that's like, people will at some point get really good and really consistent at it, but this is not a competitive fighting game. I don't think we need to worry about that too much. I think perception is much more of a pain point and annoying for myself because of just how spammable it is. Like I think the two things that I would like to see change about perception is just the spammability of it. Like make it have like a second of recovery. I know I just said like this is not a competitive fighting game, but I still think a counter should have decent bit of recovery so your opponent can't really just punish you. Like I don't think you should be able to go perception, 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 like back to back to back. Like you do a combo string, you go tap perception, you go into another combo string. Like it's so silly, and I think it should have just more recovery to it. And second thing, which also kind of ties to recovery, you should not be able to throw tech while you're using perception or recovering from it. Like, the obvious counter to perception is the throw them, and you being able to mash both perception and guard at the same time to just basically option select yourself out of any situation that is not exactly a super is so silly and so stupid. I don't think that should be a thing. So super perception also like a little bit annoying, but I think that's mostly tied to like how much, how quickly you build skill gauge currently. I would like to see like you being able to do the super anime where you grab their like their perception is like, I gotcha, the anime moment, and send them flying. And I think you should be able to use that against super perception as well. That you can use against perception, revenge count. I think it would be cool if you could use it against super perception, but mostly my pain point is just with regular perception and how spammable it is, and it's annoying. Number 5 is the lock-on system. So I'll be honest, right now it feels pretty buggy when it comes to like detection. Like sometimes you're a universal threat and you're staring at you 3 meters across from you. How is it taking you multiple seconds to find them? Like it feels so buggy right now. Like the detection, like we have key sense, we have scouters, none of that shit seems to matter. Like the lock-on system feels really bad. And I'll be honest, I do not think you should be locked off when a character faints. Like when a character gets KO'd, especially the player whose character gets KO'd. Like whenever a character gets KO'd, you now come in, you need to have the game detect the opponent before you can then throw hands again. And since you got knocked out, probably your opponent maybe has 1 skill gauge remaining, because obviously locked off you don't build a skill gauge, but they might have 1 left off. So while you're trying to get the game to detect them, they can just charge to max and snowball from there by having basically a free max power, which I don't think makes sense. But honestly, I think neither side should have their lock-on broken when a character gets KO'd in DP or team battles. I think like the lock-off system should simply be like reserved for ultimates in stuff like Solar Flare. Maybe instant transmission is fine, but it's like currently the detection feeling buggy makes it feel extra bad. But like I don't think the like KO should get you locked off of your opponent. And then this, honestly, like I kind of lumped a lot of stuff in here for these last 2, because I'll be honest, like those 5 already, like you got basically my perfect game with those changes. But obviously you can consider also the what's his face crossplay here, because that would be very cool for the longevity of the game, obviously. But for number 6, I just have fixing the stuff that feels like bugs. Like currently there are, I already mentioned kinda the lock-on system, but there are other things that like definitely just feel like bugs. Like I'm sure all of us have experienced the rush attacks, like just randomly, like when you're both facing each other and you just start swinging and your character just starts swinging the wrong way. Like that is something that's definitely a bug. And another one like that's really game breaking in my opinion when it comes to like gameplay is flying kicks. Because flying kicks right now, if you don't know, if you're guarding your opponent's attack string and they go for flying kicks, you can't mid attack string, like even if you call it out, like you can't swap to guarding high. Like you can guard against flying kicks if you're already guarding high, but you can't do it mid combo, which basically means flying kicks is unblockable, which definitely should not be a thing. So it just stuff like that, like crush attacks, the buggy lock-on system, like flank kicks being unguardable, essentially, like stuff like that just feels like a bug. And I mean sometimes also like rollback where one side sees that a super hits and the other side sees that it misses, like stuff like that is I would like to see stuff like that changed. And then finally for number 7, just a minor balance stuff. The game doesn't need to be balanced, like I said, but for minor character balance stuff is. But I think there are like some outliers that just make stuff less fun. And I think like key blasts are one like pretty universal one, like especially in sparking with characters that have unblockables. Like I'm sure everyone's been hit by SSJ2, Team Gohan, or Z Broly, but in sparking just spamming key blast and then going into unblockable. Unblockables are good, but I think unblockables are a pain point for a lot of people. But I think like I'm still fine with that. I just think like key blasts are what pushes it to be too good. Key blasts in their current state, I think, are just in general a bit too good. With stuff like after image strike in the game in its current state as well, like it's good that they're good, but I think they could be toned down a little bit. And then just like specific character stuff, like I think what they did to Yajirobe is obviously very good, and I think like I said like way earlier, like I don't think Roshi should start with 2 like after image strike characters starting with basically the after image strike almost already good to go is kind of crazy, especially for 2DP. Everyone's just replace Roshi. Sorry, replace Yajirobe with Roshi in their teams who just want to win, so it's stuff like that. I don't know. But then like Android 19 and Android 20 being able to Dragonfly like indefinitely, especially like you sometimes get like people doing the like where they fly up, fly down, fly up, fly down, like do the camera breaking stuff like on those characters. At that point it's like, holy shit bro, are you playing in tournament right now, or like what are we doing here? But I think like them being able to fly indefinitely is like, nah, I don't think they need that. Like their grabs, the absorb grabs, taking your opponent immediately out of spark in this game is like really good. Like those characters, I don't think they need the infinite flight. They're already insane. I think it just promotes degenerate gameplay. So I think that could go. And then like the Giant's unblockable Z-Burst dash, I don't think it's fun for anyone. Not the Giant play. I mean, bro. Giant players, they're not playing Giants because they have fun with them. I'm gonna throw out that assumption. But yeah, the unblockable Z-Burst dash, I think it's not fun. Maybe like add a cooldown to it, like you can just spam it or just make it cost a lot of like key or something, but I think that's something that we can get rid of. But yeah, that is like my 7 or I guess 8 changes that I would like to be made to Sparking Zero to make it my perfect game. Not perfect, but like one of my favorite games in recent years would become way better even already, like with some of these changes. But like I said, like I already like really like and enjoy the game, so even if nothing happens, I will keep playing it as long as I have ideas on what to do about it. But I'm very interested to hear like what do y'all want to see changed. Like let's do, I don't think I've ever done this, but let's do a question of the day for the video. Like let's go Dragon Ball Daima with this, because I went like regular Dragon Ball with 7 Dragon Balls. Let's go Dragon Ball Daima on this, and give me your top 3 changes that you would like to see in Sparking Zero. And we're gonna have a little bit of a discussion. But hopefully you enjoyed this video regardless, and if I ended up, like I probably will, putting some gameplay on the screen, and I'm currently in a match, then I'll let that match finish out on its own. But the voice here will say thank you for watching the video, and hope you have an awesome day. And like I said, leave a comment on what you'd like to see changed, and I will see y'all in the next videos. Have a good one, y'all, and peace.
Get lost! Take this! Take this! Take this! Waste of time! Coming next! I'll show you true hell! No way! Coming at ya! Slow! Take this! What?
Now you've seen firsthand what fusion can do.